Hey guys, Tara and Nick here for Rev3 Games, and we're going to be doing something today that we have never done on this channel before. A two-person review.
They said it couldn't be done.
I know, and we're doing it. Today we're talking about Sunset Overdrive, which you and I both got the chance to play. Yes. I played a little bit more than you, but I wanted to get you on here anyway to get your opinion about it.
Okie doke.
So basic idea of the story in this game. There's this energy drink called Overcharge, and it's being debuted by this company, Fizzco. And on its debut night, a bunch of people drink it, and they find out that it actually turns people into mutants when they drink it.
It sure does, yes.
OD is the name of the enemies in this game. But you play as the hero, male or female.
Right.
I'm guessing you played as a male.
I did.
I was a female. Lots of character customization in here, like a surprising amount.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway, like graphically, when I first played the game a few months ago, the faces just look kind of incredible, I think. Like, I actually really like the way that the character designs look.
Yeah, it's really great. A lot of weirdness in it, too, which I like. It's almost got like a very Saints Row feel to it. Like, not just in the character customization, but the humor also.
I think that's the closest point of reference. But
yeah.
So I like the way the characters look in general, like facially. How do you feel about the characters as characters and as people?
This is something that you and I talked about right after we first played it, because I was at first I was like, man, the characters in this game are like really lame.
Yes.
And then I played more of it, and I realized that actually the characters they introduce you to 6, 7, 8 hours in get really interesting.
Okay.
And it's not like the typical cliche character archetypes that you see in games like Dead Island, where it's like, oh, this guy's angry about everything and he hates the world, and then like, a good example is like there's sort of factions in the game. They don't really set it up as such, but you meet different groups of people who are sort of hiding out in the city, and you do quests for them. Further in the game, there is like a Boy Scouts troop who you end up doing some quests for. There's a really interesting storyline there. And then even later, my favorite part was you meet this group of LARPers who actually believe that they're living in the 12th century. And the entire dialogue and humor around that situation is extremely funny. Yeah. But what's cool, especially just about the layout of the game, is they have some really interesting environments in there. Sunset City itself is really cool. Like the level design, I think, is absolutely the best aspect of this game.
Yeah.
But then they also have cool like little neighborhood areas. Like there's a little Tokyo area in there that's like extremely detailed, gorgeous, tons of color in the environments.
For sure.
I like it a lot.
And I think the strongest part of that level design for me is it's all about like the locomotion and the way you move through these levels. And the game does, I think one of its biggest successes is they do a great job from minute one of emphasizing like never stop moving, constantly be grinding or shooting, or like just they keep you in the air and on rails as much as possible. Yeah. That's really important.
Yeah, literally every surface in this game can be used to either grind on or bounce on, and you can press A when you're bouncing on something to go really high. You can also wall run on any building. And the game encourages you to do this because there's this thing up in the top right corner called the style meter. So in order to keep that style meter up, you have to constantly be chaining together traversals. So, jump on a thing and then go onto the wall and then wall run. You can't just like grind forever and the style meter will go up. But as soon as you do nothing and just stand still or just run on the ground, that style meter will start to go down. So let's talk about combat, because traversal is obviously the #1 most important thing about this game, but combat is also a huge part. And it sort of ties in with the traversal aspects of it. So like, for instance, if you're grinding on something, you can perform a melee attack while you're grinding, and you will get extra bonus points and style meter for that as well. There's also a ground pound combat move, which I actually found extremely useful.
Yeah, me too.
You could take out like 10 different monsters with that at once.
Right, when you start getting the amps involved, the ground pound gets really, really good. I think like that stuff is so great because it gives you something to do while you're moving around the world. Yeah. And in particular, I think it's great because there are little tiny tweaks that you can do once you start getting good. Like you could do the roll dodge that you press X to do, and then hit A to spring jump out of it. Like that's a move that you can get eventually. Like there's just a ton of it feels like there's depth to the movement and to the combat.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
they're tied together very like intrinsically. I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And then they also have like fun little sort of mini games that mix up the combat, so you don't get too bored with just one thing. Like they have this wrecking ball mini game where you control a wrecking ball and then you have to make it drop on top of enemies who are all sort of like thirsting after this overcharged drink. They have this interesting thing in the game called Overdrives, which is literally just kind of like a skill tree, but less glorified, I think. So it's like all of them are passive skills, and you earn them from like literally doing everything in the game.
The way that the game phrased it is you get rewarded for doing the things you like to do already.
Exactly.
So do a lot of grinding, you will get a lot of grind-related overdrives, stuff like that.
Not like the typical definition of grinding. Like
No,
this is
sorry.
actual physical
like
grinding.
Tony Hawk grinding, not JRPG grinding.
Exactly.
Very different.
And then to go along with some of those extra modes, there's this thing called night defense challenges, which are like mini modes that are scattered throughout the campaign in co-op. And it's basically like a little, I would say like a 5-minute mode where you have to protect this vat of overcharge from oncoming enemies. And to do that, you set up traps, which are kind of a key component of the gameplay here. They have like flingboard traps, so you lay down this trap, and then any enemy who approaches it automatically gets flung into the air. They have ones that electrocute enemies and light them on fire. And you can also chain those together. So like you could put a flingboard trap here, bounce enemies over onto this other trap, and it's just like you get tons of points from doing that.
All that feeds into your style meter and all that stuff.
Exactly, and you get money and overcharge and things like that from it. So weapons, there are a lot of weapons. That's actually one of the things I really like about this game is it's not really limiting at all when it comes to weapons.
And it makes sense when you realize that this is the developers of Ratchet and Clank, which was known for having the most interesting weaponry in probably third-person action games up until that point.
Yeah, exactly. So like you can have up to 8 weapons at once, which is really cool. And you can also level up each weapon up to level 5, I believe. And each weapon also has an additional amp slot, which are kind of like customizable features that you can add to every weapon. So you can get like a gun and then add an electrocution amp to make it shoot, electricity bolts, which is really cool.
One of the early amps I got that I stuck with for a while was one that had when you shot an enemy, there was a chance for them to turn into one of the explosive teddy bears, which is just nice to have randomly.
I love those. Yeah, and it's worth mentioning also that amps aren't just for your weapons. There are actually 6 different categories for them. So you can have hero amps, which are like little special customizable abilities for your character. You can have them for dive bomb, which is like the ground pound move.
Right.
Almost everything you do in the game has its own specific amps, and those can also be upgraded as well, either through buying them or through Chaos Squad, which is the co-op mode for this game.
Yeah, so that's the one aspect of the game that I did not get a chance to get hands-on with, but you played some of the Chaos Squad, right?
Yes, I played a few hours with it. It's 2 to 8 players, but it's really kind of balanced for 6 to 8 people, so you can play with 2 if you want, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. It's not like a mode you enter through the game menu or anything. You actually visit a photo booth in-game, and that's where you can enter Chaos Squad. And it's basically a series of different modes, like 4 or 5 different modes that always end with one of those night defense challenges I was talking about. So they have, I want to say like maybe 10 different modes you can choose from, and after each one, you and your team, the rest of your teammates, can vote on which one you play next, which is really cool. And they have some really interesting ones there. There is a mode where you just complete challenges, so like it'll say get 5 melee kills, get 5 bounce kills. Some of them are a little more inventive. Like one of my favorites is this mode called The Floor is Lava, where the bottom layer is literally lava, so you have to basically traverse your way around this map and kill enemies while never actually hitting the ground, which is really cool because that's also one of those things that teaches you how to be better at the campaign as well. And then they also have a Day of the OD mode where you... there are like little rings on the map, and you have to try to get all of the OD to get in those rings because that's the only place on the map where you can actually kill them.
Oh,
and hurt
interesting.
them.
So it's almost like the King mode from Geometry Wars 2. I don't know why, but that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
And all the stuff you earn in this mode carries back over to single player, right?
Yes, all of your progress is transferable. I really liked Chaos Squad because, well, of the sheer variety of the amount of modes, but also just the number of them. Like, I feel like they did a really good job. It doesn't seem like one of those co-op modes that they just sort of slapped on.
Right.
Like, it seems like every different mode within Chaos Squad was really well thought out, and they were like, this will really enhance the game. So overall, I know I played a little bit more than you,
Yeah.
but what did you think of the game overall?
I feel like I still want to go back in to some degree. I love the world and I love the traversal, and that's the game part, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the part that really, at the end of the day, matters. I found the sense of humor super grating pretty often in my first few hours.
I'm kind of with you on that. I feel like the humor was kind of hit or miss. It also is something that I felt got better the more you played the game. When you start approaching characters that have very interesting backstories and things like that. I did not like the main character.
Oh, so that's interesting, because I played as the male version of the main character, and I also super hated that guy.
Yeah.
He was so like smug and like just total dick to every other character in the game at all times, just really condescending, really snarky.
Which is like how he's supposed to be. So I don't know if you're supposed to hate him, but if you are, then it worked.
Yeah, not fond of that dude. That was what motivated me to turn the audio all the way down.
Yeah, but literally almost every other aspect of this game, I really fell in love with the more I played it. Like all the traversal stuff is so good. Even what I was able to do, like, kind of amazed me. I would complete a weird chain of traversal, and then I'd be like, man, that was really awesome. And other people were watching me play it too. And they were like, this game looks really fun. Like, it's not a game that's boring in any way, shape, or form.
You could never accuse Sunset Overdrive of being boring. And I think my biggest question when we first saw that teaser trailer a few E3s ago, where it shows the protagonist like hanging from the crowbar and sliding down the rails and shooting guys, we were like, if the game plays like that, then they've accomplished what they set out to accomplish. And it does, I think, for the most part, play like that. I think they do a great job of like, you can do the things you want to do in that world. Everything that looks like you can bounce off the top of it, you can bounce off the top of it. Everything that looks grindable is grindable. I was very rarely frustrated by the movement, and that at the end of the day was what I wanted from Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, exactly. You pretty much summed it up. So yeah, this game comes out October 28th. I think if you are into this kind of game, then you will love it. I mean, a story aside, I think it's hard not to like this game.
Right, and
I was really surprised.
I was too. I didn't know what to expect from it. I didn't end up playing it at E3 or at any event, so I went into it pretty blind.
Same here.
And I was really fond of it. And yeah, I don't know. It's funny because like when you look at what's come out this holiday so far, there's like Bayonetta 2 and a small handful of other things. Smash Brothers is coming out, but there's not a ton of like totally original IPs out there, especially on the PS4 and Xbox One, and this is an option for Xbox One owners. I think this is kind of a must-have for Xbox One. Yeah, because there really is not much on there that I can think of that's better than this. So far. It's a must-have simply by nature of there not being that many other things to play on that console.
But it's also a really good game.
Yes, that too.
So yeah. If you guys play it, obviously let us know what you think of it. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below, or you can get in touch with us on Twitter. I am Terra Longest. He is Babylonian. Yes. And that's it.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Player Brawl is exactly as crazy as you would expect it to be, although the big stages do help a lot alleviating that, and playing it on stock mode actually lets the match slowly whittle down to a smaller group and start to feel more like normal Smash. However, 5-player might actually be a totally valid way to play the game, and something I end up doing with my friends. It is possible to play with 8 GameCube controllers if you have 2 GameCube controller